¿Qué lo que y'all? What's good? Estamos activo, bienvenido, and we done took off past 7,800 suscriptores. So I really appreciate all y'all that have already subscribed, whether you're new here or if you've been rocking with me for a minute. I really appreciate it. And to anybody who is not subscribed yet, come on. I always say the best way to learn a language is to learn all the things that you normally use in your native language. And the number one word that we use in English is the. So obviously that should be at the top of the list. The problem is that this is more complicated in Spanish because all Spanish nouns have a gender. Even after years of learning, most people, including me, don't get this right 100% of the time. I've even heard native speakers mess this up. So the goal here isn't to be perfect. I just want to help lower your stress about this and hopefully help you get it right the majority of the time. This series will be broken down into 4 videos that all focus on Spanish noun gender so that you really understand how it works and then get some practice in. So the first 3 videos will be lessons, which includes this one, and then the last one will be a practice session so that you can actually apply everything that you've learned. Nice and easy. But before we jump in, let me give you a quick refresher on some things that you really need to know first. A noun is a person, place, or thing. So a cat, a shoe, a store, an employee. Notice what's in front of all these nouns. Nouns often get paired with a, an, or the, and these are called articles. We use the to talk about something specific, like the book, or we use a or an to talk about something general. So a book. Both of these things, nouns and articles, are also used in Spanish, and that's what we're going to be breaking down in this series. Great. So now that we remember what nouns and articles are, let's continue with what we came here for. All nouns in Spanish have a gender. So that means they're either considered masculine or feminine. To really understand how this works, let's first look at how we use a versus an in English. We say a car or a person, but we say an apple. Whether we use a or an depends on what letter the noun starts with. Spanish articles work a lot like this, but instead of it being the first part of the word that matters, it's actually the last part. So the ending of Spanish nouns determines whether it's masculine or feminine. This trips up a lot of Spanish learners because we hear gender and we automatically assume that it has something to do with male and female. But Spanish noun gender has nothing to do with who is using the noun. Por ejemplo, the word for dress, vestido, is masculine, and tie, corbata, is feminine. The only time that Spanish noun gender is going to be based on actual gender is when you're talking specifically about a person or a living thing. But we'll get into that in lesson 3. Okay, so now that you have a general understanding of noun gender in Spanish, I'm going to tell you how to say the and a in Spanish, and then in the next lesson, I'm going to tell you how to figure out which one to use when. As you may already know, or have been able to guess by now, the way that you say the is going to depend on whether the noun is masculine or feminine. For masculine nouns, you'll use el libro. For feminine nouns, you'll use la mesa. Now, in English, when we're talking about more than one book, then we just add an S onto the end to get books. But the doesn't change. The book, the books. But in Spanish, the also changes to extra clarify that we're talking about more than one thing. So el and la are for singular nouns, when you only have one of something. If you have more than one of something, then el becomes los for masculine nouns, los libros, and la becomes las for feminine nouns, las mesas. To say a in Spanish is much easier, so you're welcome. That's why we led with the. For masculine nouns, you'll use un libro. For feminine nouns, you'll just add an a, una mesa. So a works a little bit different in Spanish than it does in English. So in English, we could never use a or an if there's more than one of whatever we're talking about. It would either have to be a book and then something like some books, but it couldn't be a books. It just doesn't work that way. But in Spanish, it does. You can basically think of these as some in Spanish. So unos for masculine nouns, unos libros, and unas for feminine nouns, unas mesas. To wrap this up, here's a really big tip. It is much easier to learn this if every time you learn a new noun, you also learn whether it's masculine or feminine. This is super valuable because knowing the noun's gender is going to also help you figure out which adjective to use, which version of this, that, these, and those to use, and more. So trust me, when you learn a new noun, also learn the article that goes with it, just like it was a part of the same word. Like learn them together, not separately. Trust me, it'll save you a lot of hassle. In the next lesson, we're going to learn how to tell which nouns are masculine and which are feminine. So stay tuned, give this video a like, suscríbete, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Gracias por estar aquí. Hasta la próxima.